21st at 7 p.m. I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Villa Park Village Board. Clerk Konecki, could you call the roll?
Trustee Solella, Trustee Cazzone, Trustee Murphy,
Here.
Trustee Patrick,
Here.
Trustee Tucker,
Here.
Trustee Wagner,
Here.
President Bolthus.
Oops, muted. You're muted, Al.
Unmute yourself.
I got it. I'd like to introduce our attorney, Michael Castaldo is here today in place of Kathy Orr. We welcome Michael.
Thank you, Mayor. Happy holidays to everyone.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Let's all please rise for the pledge. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. All right, the next order on our agenda is public comments on agenda items. Anyone have any comments they want to make on items number 6 through, let me give my numbers here, 6 through 10C. Anybody here from St. A wants to talk? Now's your time. No, this is it.
Okay, yes, I would like to say something. Okay.
Oh.
Hello, everyone. My name is John Streets. I'm with Foil Signs here on behalf of St. Alexander's Church. I'll do my best to hold the space bar down the entire time while I speak. At the main objective of this is to get a sign for St. Alexander's Church along Ardmore there. You know, this sign would allow the church to advertise things for the church and services as well as offer community services, and that'd be very visible to any traffic on Ardmore there. This sign is code compliant based on my interpretation of code, and that is specifically with regard to the viewing area for the message center. It's 2 foot high by 8 feet wide, and thus 16 square feet. But I understand code, or at least Consuelo interprets code to count the entire size of the message center as noted on the drawing. So I would ask that everyone on the board consider the fact that I believe it's 16 square feet for the viewing area of the message center. Normally this church would be allowed as an institution, 32 square foot monument sign, of which 18 square feet would be allowed for the message center with special approval normally. Every other religious building or church near this property could technically get an electronic message center. And it would only be fair for the church to also get a message center in this part of town. At the moment, we're proposing the sign to be 10 feet setback. As mentioned, the size and height are all within code. If approved, this variance would accommodate regulations of the use of a message center and allow the St. Alexander's to get this sign. And in addition, just in closing, I think this is well within the intent of code to allow St. Alexander's this sign. And that is all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else?
Yes, sir. I'd like to speak.
Okay, state your name when you get up there, please.
Good evening, board members. My name is Matt Trattina. I'm one of the deacons at St. Alexander's, and I'll try to hold the space bar down too. I'm used to talking with my hands, so I don't know how good I'm going to do with that. There's a couple of things that I'd like to point out about the sign here. I don't know if you know the history of the library and the church, but before the library expansion happened, St. Alexander's owned the parking lot north of the library, the old library. And at that time, the library came to St. Alexander's and wanted to take that parking lot in exchange for the old parking lot, which is the parking lot that is currently south between the library and the florist right now. So we agreed to swap parking lots, knowing that the library expansion would be good for the community. It would be a good look for the community and good for everyone involved. When we switched parking lots, what happened is that then put our placement for the sign into the business district zoning. So previously, had we kept the old parking lot, we would have been outside the zoning and would not have any problem for having the sign built and erected as an electronic sign. But now we're in the business district zoning, which goes all the way up to School Street from the south, when in reality, I think maybe the business district zone should end at the florist building there, the brick building, which abuts our parking lot. So now we're putting in for the variance for the sign there. And this is one of the things that came up that I think should be noted. The other thing is that the sign is a good look for the neighborhood. Every time you come to a neighborhood that has churches, it's a good look, strong family-oriented community. Some of my real estate friends have told me that Villa Park is a targeted community for those moving out of the city. The prices are reasonable and that it's a good market. So this is a good look, good advertisement for the village, churches, and especially a church that has some updated technology. So I just wanted to point those few things out to you, and thank you for your time. Good night.
Thank you. Anyone else on agenda items? Matt Smith?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Right. My name is Matt Schmidt. I've been in the community for 39 years, part of St. Alexander's for 39 years. And as Matt and Mr. Streets reiterated, the reality is that we're just trying to help our community. I put some of my own money at this situation to make this look better. We're going to do brick. We're going to make this look nice. And we want to make sure that we're not going to make it an ugly sign. We're going to make this help the community. We'll, be available to put our events for community events, for the Knights of Columbus, for other organizations that give back to our community. Just a few years back, we went and raised money for AEDs for the police department. We've given over $6,000 to food drives and different Northern Illinois Food Bank and other places here close. We're trying to help everyone here in Villa Park, and please consider putting this sign up. Please consider helping us out, and God bless you, and thank you for all of your support in advance.
Thank you, Matt. Is anyone else in the public here present that would like to speak on any item on the agenda besides? Yeah, I would. Okay. State your name up there. Okay, you don't have to hold it down. Just go ahead.
My name is John Clark, and my concern with the parking lot is to have security cameras where the school is, the churches, and the Adoration Chapel. So that way you could catch any criminal activities and you could keep it a crime-free parking lot 24 hours a day. Because we have problems with people coming in there with cars that don't belong there, either doing drugs or sitting there or hanging out with their friends, and it's dangerous for the people that have to go to adoration or people that go to church. So this should be a real safe place when you're on church property where you don't have to deal with criminal activity. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, John. Anyone else? They're here? None? Okay, Manager Keener, did anyone else send anything by email?
No, they did not, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Hello. Okay, then we'll move on then to our next item, which is the amendments to the agenda. Do any board members have any amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item. But before we get to that, the next item is swearing in of Michael Rivas as position of police chief. But before we get to that, I just think it's appropriate that we take a couple minutes to say thank you to Chief Lay for him being with us for 30 years now. Chief Lay, Mike Lay, joined us in 30 years ago. And over those 30 years, he's started as patrol officer, and he's gone right through the ranks, patrol officer, detective lieutenant, investigation business, technical officer, deputy chief, and now for the last number of years, he has been the chief of Villa Park. Not only has he been busy in Villa Park, he's also been an active in our community, volunteering for a number of things. He's a member of the Villa Park Kiwanis Club, and we're gonna miss Mike. He's a familiar face around here. We've all gotten to know him personally, not just by seeing him and knowing his name, but he's been a real blessing to Villa Park. So I just want to take a minute to thank Mike Lay for the time he has spent here in Villa Park, and we really appreciate it. We wish you the best as you move on to your next adventure in your life. So thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move on now to the swearing in of our new police chief, Michael Rivas. I believe I got that pronounced right. Rivas. And Michael will begin today as police chief. Let's give me a couple of minutes, okay? And Michael, he has I'm getting some feedback here. Is it muted? Okay, that's good. See, Michael has a bachelor's degree of political science and his master's degree in public administration from the University of Illinois, Champaign-Urbana. He completed his training and is a graduate from the University of Louisville Southern Police Institute. And Michael's professional experience includes over 30 years of experience, primarily with the Wooddale Police Department, where he began working as a patrol officer. He has served as a police investigator and sergeant watch commander until he was promoted to deputy chief in 2011. He has been involved with all aspects of police work, including but not limited to patrol, investigation, communications, records management, evidence and property inventory, and the formulation of the police department's annual budget. Michael has served as a communications well, he's been in the, what is that called? Law enforcement agency, CALEA assessor, and more than 19 years, for more than 19 years. He comes to Villa Park most recently from the village of Sleepy Hollow, where he has served as police chief and was elected to the Kane County Chief of Police Association Executive Board. We'd like to take this opportunity to swear Michael in and welcome him to the village of Villa Park. So with that, Clerk Konecki will swear him in.
Okay, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
Michael Rivas,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Illinois,
the Constitution and the laws of the state of Illinois,
the laws and ordinances of the Village of Villa Park,
the laws and the ordinances for the Village of Villa Park,
the rules and regulations of the Villa Park Police Department,
the rules and the regulations of the Villa Park Police Department,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of Police Chief
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of Police Chief
for the Village of Villa Park
for the Village of Villa Park
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my abilities.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
We get to put on the badge or his bride there. Welcome aboard. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
We'll be in touch, I'm sure.
Yes, we will. Look forward to serving the citizens as well as the board.
Thank you very much. Hey, that's kind of wonderful. We had a long-term employee being able to retire and being able to welcome a new person, a new chief to the Village of Villa Park. And we all, as we all, wish him the best in that. So, okay. Thank you. We'll move on to our next item, which is the consent agenda, which is the minutes from the public hearing on December 7th, 2020. Got double here. Minutes from the board meeting held on December 7th, 2020. Bill listing for the week of December 7th and December 14th, 2020 in a total amount of $224,757.16. We have a motion for the consent agenda. Trustee Wagner?
I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, do we have a second? Trustee Ciela? I gotta turn my volume up here a minute. Come on. Okay. So any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Pat,
Yes.
Trustee Tucker,
Yes.
Trustee Murphy,
Yes.
Trustee Wagner,
Yes.
Trustee Solella,
Yes.
President Wolfus.
Yes, that passes, and we'll move on to number 7A, which is the first reading of an ordinance of the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, amending Chapter 8 and 9 of the Villa Park Municipal Code, reference the fire prevention and protection. Manager Keener.
Thank you, Your Honor. The Village adopted updated building and fire codes created by the International Code Council in May of 2020 in order to stay up to date with new technologies and construction methods that are typically safer and more energy efficient. The changes proposed to Chapter 9 in this ordinance were unintentionally excluded during the code update in May, but are necessary to be consistent with the adopted fire code amendments. Additionally, minor changes are recommended to Chapter 8 regarding roof and ceiling construction to be in alignment with the International Residential Code. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Seeing that this is just a code change to be in compliance with the International Residential Code, is there a motion to waive the second reading?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, that's Trustee Murphy. Do we have a second? Trustee Wagner?
I'll second the motion.
Any questions on that motion? Seeing none, we'll have a vote on that, please.
President.
That's a question.
Oh, those questions, Trustee Ciela.
I wasn't able to find this information on my own. I'm just wondering if you can enlighten me to the fact that with roof and ceiling construction, is this also encompassing an addition to a building that would be requesting a second floor? Some of these codes?
Maybe Manager Keener or Consuelo.
I could answer that if I may. So this would be applicable to any new construction, even if it's a second story addition that would be subject to the International Residential Code.
How about for existing structures that are requesting a second level?
Yes, it would be applicable.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Trustee Wagner.
Just a point of order. So we are voting to make this essentially the first and final reading. I can vote on the actual motion, or just this is the motion?
Motion is to waive the second reading.
Okay.
Be back later, after this vote, to vote on the whole motion.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Seeing none, roll call vote on the waiving the second reading.
Trustee Tucker,
Yes.
trustee Salella,
Yes.
trustee Patrick,
Yes.
trustee Murphy,
Yes.
trustee Wagner,
Yes.
President Boldis.
Yes. Okay. Now we need a motion for the ordinance. Trustee Wagner.
I'd like to make that motion.
Thank you. There a second? Trustee Murphy.
Yes, I'll second that.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Trustee Wagner.
Just one question. In the memo, it mentions the orientated strand board, and that was a term I was not familiar with. I know there's been issues with building materials sourced from, I'll say China. I know there was an issue with plasterboard, et cetera. Do we specify sourcing, or do we inspect building material? Just a general question.
Consuelo.
If I may, we do definitely inspect the building materials as part of the normal inspections. We don't inspect where it's coming from. We do inspect how it's made and what it is as part of the building permit review process. Specifications of detailed drawings are submitted for our review. And if it meets our residential code, we do approve it. And as part of the inspection process, we make sure that what was constructed complies with the approved drawings.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Any other questions? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Salella,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
trustee Patrick,
Yes.
trustee Wagner,
Yes.
trustee Murphy,
Yes.
President Boldis.
Yes. That passes, and we'll move on to number 8A, which is the second and final reading of an ordinance adopting a budget for the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, for all corporate purposes, in lieu of an annual appropriation ordinance for the fiscal year commencing on January 1st, 2021, and ending on December 31st, 2021. Andrew Keener.
Thank you, Your Honor. The village's fiscal year 2021 budget ordinance allocates the continued provision of village services, as well as significant capital investment as discussed during the village's budget presentation held at the November 23rd board meeting. The public hearing held on December 7th, first reading in the adoption ordinance held on December 7th. The budget draft has been available for public inspection at Village Hall and on the village's website. The budget covers the 12-month period from January 1st through December 31st, 2021. Thank you, Your Honor.
We have a motion for the second reading, second and final. Trustee Tucker.
I'll make that motion for the second reading.
And for a second, Trustee Ciela.
Second.
Any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Trustee Patrick,
Yes.
trustee Murphy,
Yes.
trustee Wagner,
Yes.
trustee Tucker,
Yes.
trustee Salella,
Yes.
President Boldis.
Yes, that passes, and we'll move on to number 8B, which is a second and final reading of an ordinance levying taxes for the fiscal year of the Village Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, commencing on the first day of January 2020 and ending on the 31st day of December 2020. Andrew Keener.
Thank you, Your Honor. The 2020 tax levy process is well underway. The library board approved their levy on September 23rd. The village board adopted a resolution estimating the tax levy on November 9th, and several abatement ordinances were approved on December 7th. The first reading of the tax levy process was held on December 7th. The total levy for the village and library is $12,288,109 and has been abated to $11,141,831, an increase of 11%. The Truth in Taxation hearing was held on November 23rd for the public to review and comment on the tax levy. The final amount will likely be reduced by DuPage County due to property tax caps. A majority of the levy is subject to a 2.3% tax cap plus new growth. Thank you, Your Honor.
We have a motion for the second and final reading. Trustee Wagner,
I'd like to make that motion.
we have a second.
I'll second that.
Trustee Murphy, second. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Solella?
Yes.
Trustee Tucker?
Yes.
Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
President Bolfus?
Yes, that passes, and we'll move on to number 9A, which is an ordinance of the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, establishing temporary executive powers pursuant to Chapter 8, Article 3, Section 8-301 to 308 of the Villa Park Municipal Code and 65 ILCS 5/11-1-6 of the Illinois Municipal Code and 20 ILCS 3305-11 of the Illinois Emergency Management Act. This ordinance extends the temporary executive power contained in ordinance number 4180, approved by the village board on December 7th, 2020, until such time that the village board can reconvene an open meeting. Do you have a motion for the ordinance?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Tucker?
Yes.
Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
Trustee Solella?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
President Bolfus?
Yes, that passes, and we'll move on to number 9B, which is an ordinance of the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, granting a variation to install electronic message display panel in the Ardmore Ave Business District and a variation to allow an electric message center display panel measuring 62.4% of the allowable sign area. Manager Keener.
Thank you, Your Honor. The petitioner proposes to install a monument sign measuring 8.25 feet wide by 6 feet high, including an electronic message display board. The sign area would comply with the maximum 32 square feet allowed. However, the electronic message display panel is not permitted within the Ardmore Avenue Business District and exceeds the maximum 50% of the allowed sign area. This ordinance grants a variation to allow the placement of the sign in the Ardmore Business District, as well as a second variation permitting the electronic message display to measure 62.4% of the allowed sign area. At the public hearing held on November 12, 2020, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of this variation request. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Do we have a motion for the ordinance?
President Bolfus, I'd like to make that motion.
Trustee Patrick? Do
I'd like to make that motion, President Bolfus.
you have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board? Trustee Tucker?
I have several questions. Is there anyone from St. A still here? Or have they left?
They're still here. Let's just give us
Okay.
a question.
Basically, first of all, I understand that they have the right to have a sign there and that our issue is on the electronics of the sign tonight on making a variance to it. So allowed to have the sign. I mean, I do have an issue that I do believe the imperative of the public safety and that the sign itself is going to cause a delay no matter what sign they have. But I'm seeing some issues of the sign itself. I understand the sign can go up without any discussion, that we're here because of electronics. So I wanted to ask them a question. Basically, the reasons they need the electronic sign instead of the regular standard sign that they had previously. Because what they gave at what I read from the PZ mission they stated a lot of things that didn't really answer my questions on why they need an electronic sign instead of a regular sign. First of all, they stated that they needed to reach out to more parishioners about mass times and current events. My question is, how often does the mass time change in the current events that a standard sign wouldn't work? Why is there a need for an electronic sign when it doesn't change that often? It's not a problem that they need to change it every week. Because if I'm understanding right, the mass times don't change from week to week. And their special events at the church, if they're only talking about the church, is only going to happen a couple times. The other question is, they stated that they needed to get more parishioners. How many parishioners did they have before the pandemic? I mean, how many members were in the church before this that they're saying that they need the sign to get more? The other question is that, if they're using the sign, they also stated that they need an electronic sign. Are they using the sign for an advertisement? I mean, here, are they advertising for their church? Is that what they're doing? So they're using it as like a business would to make advertisement for the church itself? Because Trinity Lutheran has a sign across the street, and so does Community Congregation have a sign, and St. A's also has a sign by their church. So that tells mass time and the regular things. So I'm kind of curious why they made these statements for the electronic signs.
Okay, so you have four.
I have several questions, yeah.
Give us the first question. I missed
My first question is, they stated that they needed the electronic sign for more parishioners so they can inform them on mass time and current events.
What was the very first one? We got the mass times and for more members and question on advertising.
Right. It sounded like they were going to use the sign for advertisement for their church.
Okay. Let's give them an opportunity to reply, okay?
Okay.
Hi, Trustee Tucker. This is Deacon Matt Tratina from St. Alexander's. Those are good questions and a good point that you brought up about mass times. The mass times don't change. You're right about that. But we do have a very vibrant and active community at St. Alexander's. There's a lot of events going on, events that serve the community and benefit the community, along with helping the members of the church. I don't know if that answers that question, but
how many times do these events change that you need an electronic sign? My question was, how often do these events change for you that you would need an electronic sign to change every week? Because generally, electronic sign would be something that the event changes every week or every 2 weeks so that you can keep people up to date on it. A standard sign would work for your events if they don't change very often.
So your question.
Am I good? Am I good? Can you hear me?
Yes.
That's a good point. Like I said, we have a very active community, and we have events almost every week, every other week. There's something going on at the church. You had mentioned the sign as Advertising, absolutely. We are advertising our church community. We're advertising the things that go on, who we are, what we do. That's a great point. One of the other points is that, the sign that we do have on Cornell, that's probably original from the 1950s when the church was erected. We're looking to look a little more modern with the digital sign and hopefully stand out a little bit more to the younger generations who are more used to the digital age. One of the things there, which hopefully some of the things going on will attract younger members of the community. I don't know if that answers your question, but hopefully it does.
So basically you're using, if I'm correct, you're using your sign to promote church activities. You also made a statement that you were promoting the community activities. So are you going to be using this electronic sign as a community advertisement board? Or is this only going to be used for your church itself?
No, this is strictly events for the church, but I did say they do benefit the community. So a lot of events and services that we do that benefit the community, food for the homeless. We have services there that we feed the homeless communities, soup kitchens, stuff like that. We have clothing drives. Our Knights of Columbus are very active, and the money that they raise is often contributed back to the community. So in a way, it is benefiting the community along with the members of our parish.
Okay. I just wanted clarification that it wasn't going to be a community sign, that you weren't going to be advertising a dance recital. Well, that's it's a public party at 495 because it's a community event. These events would actually be only church events. I understand a church event always benefits the community as a whole. So these would just be events at your church itself, not okay.
Correct. Yeah. We're not advertising parties all over the neighborhood or anything like that.
Okay, it's not going to be a community public advertisement sign that you'll be renting out. Okay. You also made a statement saying that you needed an electronic sign because you don't have any volunteers that are willing to change the sign. So if the board did not vote to give you the variance for the electronic sign, my understanding is a standard sign for the church would be useless until the pandemic is over. Is that what you're stating?
I don't know if that's been stated anywhere. I don't know where that came from, but the older signs, like the 1950 signs, you have to open up the case and go in there and replace each letter. And I certainly don't want to do that when it's 10 below.
I understand, and that's a normal standard sign. My question was, the statement was made at at P&Z that some 70-year-old man wouldn't go in there to change the sign. And my question is, if we don't vote to give you the variance for the electronic sign, are you stating that a standard sign, which you're eligible for without any question, for the church would be useless if we don't until after the pandemic? Because if you don't have the electronic sign, you have no way to use a regular sign?
I don't know if that's entirely accurate. And I really would rather focus on the positive benefits that come from the sign. Some of the things that I've stated already. I don't know about not being able to use the sign. But if you think about the location where we're at, we have zero visibility from Ardmore, which is a main thoroughfare going through there, when in reality, our property extends all the way out to Ardmore with that parking lot that we switched with the library.
I understand. You are eligible for a standard sign. Our question right now, our variance has to do with allowing you to have an electronic sign. This probably is not, my understanding is when the library is closed, these are not questions for you. These are actually questions for that I have a question for. Why does the electronic display area on the sign have to be the size it is? Can it not be smaller to make the 50%?
It could be smaller.
Okay. So is there a problem that they couldn't make the sign within 50%?
Trustee Tucker, I'm going to let my representative from Doyle Signs answer that question about the size of the sign. So I'll step back and let John take care of it.
Hello again, John Streets here with Doyle Signs. Specific to the size of the sign, yeah, they can go another step smaller. That would make it much less than 50% of the sign. Right now, the viewing area of the message center is exactly 50% of the sign area.
My understanding is the problem is that the electronic viewing area of that sign is more than 50%, and that's why we have to give you the variance.
The overall cabinet size of the message center is 2'5" by 8'3", whereas the viewing area is only 2 foot high by 8 feet wide.
So is the variance because the sign as a whole is too big? I'm misunderstanding that, because my understanding is the 50% was 50% of the sign size was causing the difference, that they hit 62.4% instead of 50%.
If I may clarify in terms of how the code defines a sign area, it does provide a definition, and it even provides an illustration of how the sign area is calculated. So based on the code's definition and illustration of how to define a sign area, the subject sign here is exceeding the maximum area allowed for the electronic message display area, which is up to 50% of the maximum sign area allowed. They are asking for two variations. The first one is to allow the sign in the overlay district that it's in that does not allow electronic message center signs. And then the second one is to have the electronic message center portion of it exceed this 50% based on the definition of the code and the graphic of the code.
Okay, so the sign does exceed the electronic amount. And that was my question. Could
Yes.
it not be 50%, the electronic part of the sign, be brought down to the 50% so that we would not need to make a variance on that?
Yes, that's technically, yes, something that could be done.
Okay, because that was, I don't understand why they need more than 50% for electronics on that sign. Why it has to be 62.4%. That was my question.
Well, that's their request, so.
I understand, but I wanted to know why it needed to be
Okay.
more than that. Why it cannot be within the 50% allowed.
So if I could just comment again, this was discussed at the Plan Commission meeting, and we did get a majority vote at the Plan Commission with regard to that portion of the variance request. I had asked this time and at the previous meeting that in reviewing this request, you consider the interpretation of just the viewing area of the message center, which is the only part that's visible to the public, which is 2 foot high by 8 feet wide, which is 16 square feet, which is half of the 32 square feet of the overall size of the sign.
Again, is the electronic part of the sign larger than 50%?
Based on Consuelo's interpretation of code, including the frame of the message center, yes.
I just want to clarify, it's not Consuelo's interpretation. It's a adopted sign ordinance, the village code. There's a definition and then there's a graphic to illustrate how the sign area is defined. I just want to make that clarification for everyone.
Okay, and again, is there a reason why you could not get it in the 50%?
This is the most, this is the best use, in my professional opinion, of this sign with the message center at the size that it is. It fills in the sign very nicely, and the viewing area is only 50 square feet. And I think if we were to reduce this sign by let's say 6 square feet. The message center isn't going to be as wide as the rest of the sign. There's going to be blacked out areas on the left and the right. It's just not going to be aesthetically pleasing, especially when you consider the viewing area is only 50% of the total area of the sign.
My understanding is when the library's not, is closed, their sign is actually off. So could we request that the sign, if we approve it, give them the variance that it's actually turned off at 10 o'clock? Are we allowed to do that?
Consuelo, I think that was in the ordinance, isn't it? Trustee Murphy, did you read that?
Wilbur doesn't do it.
Yeah, this is different.
Yes, I believe it's off from 11 at night till 7 in the morning. But I for confirmation from a staff resource.
Consuelo?
So as presently proposed, the hours of the operation of the sign is not part of the ordinance, but it is subject to the general provisions of the sign ordinance in terms of complying with the applicable village code requirements related to the subject sign. But the specific condition of the hours of operation is not listed as a condition of approval. So our normal code requirements would be applicable, but the board does have the ability to modify the conditions of approval should they choose to.
I just wanted to question if we could do that at 10. The reason I'm asking that is that sign, if it becomes an electronic sign, is directly diagonal with the apartments on Central and Ardmore. And my understanding is, Consuelo, that the light variance would be okay from that sign or that area. Is that correct?
It would, yes, as is, they're not proposing any variations to deviate from what the code requirements are as in regards to illumination of the sign.
So the illumination of the sign, if whatever it is, would not affect those apartments across the street.
It should not, correct.
Okay, because the library, if they had it in their usual spot, there wouldn't be any houses or apartments affected on it. Where it is right now, those would affect the apartments because they are diagonally from the sign. It would also affect the church itself because it's directly across from the church. So that was why I was asking if it is possible for courtesy of the apartment buildings, if it could be shut off at 10 instead of 11.
So that's a condition that the board may definitely consider should they modify the conditions as presented. I do want to clarify that our code does have illumination standards for electronic message center displays and also the hours of operation. It does limit it so that it's off between the hours of 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. Should the board want to approve a special condition of approval that's in regards to the hours to be different than what the code allows or prohibits, it's definitely within your purview to do that.
Okay. And one last thing, as a board, I just want to point it to, we need to take into consideration as we are voting that we would be setting up a precedence for the Ardmore Historical District if we approve this variance for that electronic sign. I understand the variance of I understand this is a unique case and the fact that if they had put the sign where they had it previously at the other location, we would basically only be having to do a special use thing like we did for the library. Got it. But it is kind of amazing how the board approval of the library sign cause a domino effect now. So I just want to take it into consideration that P&Z did bring up a lot of issues that may come up later if, as we consider the approving the variation to this electronic sign.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else from the board have any questions or comments? Trustee Wagner?
Thank you, President Bolthus. within the context that we're referring to a church or a house of worship, I would prefer that we not say advertising. This is more like evangelization or outreach. And with respect to what they would what they would be announcing would be not just mass times, but first communions, confirmations, other events. St. A's and the organizations within St. A's do so much for the community. Just recently, the Knights of Columbus raised money for coats that were passed out at the Nourished and Healthy event put on by Tri-Town YMCA. So it's not advertising, it's outreach to the community. Their St. Patrick, St. Joseph's event raises money. I know that they have a St. Vincent de Paul Society. They have a food pantry that benefits indigent people. So, I prefer that we think of this as outreach and evangelization, not advertisement. The other thing is, with respect to the library sign, I have not noticed any detrimental effects to traffic as a result of that sign. And with regards to the testimony, there was no dissenting testimony from any neighbors. And it was there was only one dissenting vote on behalf of the commission. I appreciate Trustee Tucker's concerns, but I think we should do everything we can to help our houses of worship. If they think this is going to help them stay vital in the community, I'm completely in support of it. I think the sign looks attractive. I'm not sure it's going to create a precedent or not. But, I appreciate the concerns, but I intend to vote in favor of this. That's all I have.
Anyone else? Trustee Murphy?
Yes, thank you. First and foremost, I'm not necessarily an advocate of having electronic signs all over town, particularly one on Ardmore Avenue where the actual building is not located. That being said, St. Alexander's does own the parking lot, and it's my understanding, based on the 73-page documentation from Planning and Zoning, and also some comments that we've been having here tonight, they are entitled to put up alternative types of signs. Very often, from my knowledge and experience in the area, there are very large signs up that are promoting different events at St. Alexander's, like the Knights of Columbus. There's pancake breakfasts. There are quite a few activities where we're putting up big manual signs. And if they have the right and the ability to put those types of signs up, that would be the next alternative should the board choose not to pass this. So I personally would prefer that they do move forward with the electronic sign. One comment with respect to the size of the sign, I do have some experience with signs in the area where, for whatever reason, I'm not an expert on digital signs, the sign perhaps is not large enough to get the entire message in one screenshot, and information will come up on the sign saying on a specific date at a specific time, and that it won't say the event that's happening because I'm surmising that the sign is not big enough to put the entire text in one screenshot. So the commission doesn't seem to have a problem with the request regarding the size of the sign. And if that's what it takes to put the adequate information up in one screenshot and they're okay with it, I would be okay with that as well. None of the documentation I read seemed to cite significant concerns over safety. There was more information about the historic district and those concerns. I was particularly impressed with the sign company and the statements regarding different patterns, different things that can be done from an aesthetic perspective to make these signs look really nice. And if that's the case and we get more requests, I have to say thank you to the commission. They did spend a very significant amount of time discussing the aesthetics of the sign with respect to the brick base matching the church and the top portion being perhaps a blue color and making some changes from an aesthetic perspective. So my perspective would be that as long as they're entitled to put up a manual sign there anyway, and that's going to be the alternative we're left with, I would be in favor of the electronic sign.
Thank you. Anyone else? Trustee Patrick.
Thank you. I'd just like to say that I think this is a great opportunity for St. Alexander's. Mr. Trattina, Mr. Schmidt, Mr. Streets, and Mr. Clark all bring up really good reasons as why this would be beneficial to their organization and our community as a whole. So I will be in favor of this because I think it is a really good idea for them.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing no one else, we'll have a roll call. Yes, Trustee Tucker.
I just want to clarify. I was not attacking them. I just wanted clarification. I understand the church uses it for the appropriate thing for advertising, but their comments in there, I wanted clarification that it wasn't going to be an advertisement sign, that it was actually going to be rightfully, done by the church itself. I mean, I do have issues with the traffic on that corner, but then again, I mean, they're eligible for a sign, and I agree, a sign is a sign. So I'm not in favor of more electronics in that area, but he did answer my questions. So, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Trustee Murphy.
Yes.
Trustee Salilla.
Yes.
Trustee Tucker.
Yes.
Trustee Wagner.
Yes.
Trustee Patrick.
Yes.
President Bolthus.
Yes. Okay, that passes. We'll move on. So we're all set.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to item number 10A, which is a resolution of the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, approving the capital improvement plan for calendar year 2021 through 2025. Manager Keenan.
Thank you, Your Honor. The village's fiscal year 21 through 25 capital improvement plan is a multi-year planning instrument used to identify needed capital projects and to coordinate the financing and timing of these capital improvements in such a way that maximizes the return to the public. Originally presented to the board at the November 23rd, 2020 board meeting, the draft CIP has been available for public inspection and review at Village Hall and on the village's website. The proposed CIP encompasses all single and multi-year capital projects with costs of $25,000 or more with a life expectancy of at least 20 years and includes all projects in this year's budget and planned projects for the next 5 years. Revenues to fund this program will come from the referendum approved bond proceeds, a dedicated half-cent non-home rule sales tax, water supply and wastewater funds, grants, loans, drainage fees, TIF revenue, and corporate fund transfers. Thank you, Your Honor.
Do we have a motion for the resolution? Trustee Wagner?
I'd like to make that motion.
Second, Trustee Ciela?
Second.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board? Trustee Wagner?
Just one question. The way the CIP was put together, it seems in past years we've had more specificity as to what's happening in what specific year. Every project was 2021 through 2025. Any reason we did that?
Michael?
The reason we kind of made that modification was due to several factors. With the uncertainty of some of the revenues and with the rate study that's underway, we wanted to ensure some of the revenues before we can commit certain projects to certain years. So this is still a plan and prioritization of projects, but until we get a little bit clearer picture with our rate study, we wanted to make sure we have the revenues in hand before we commit to fiscal years.
Thank you. That's all I had.
I'm getting there. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, roll call vote.
Trustee Patrick,
Yes.
Trustee Murphy,
Yes.
Trustee Tucker,
Yes.
Trustee Wagner,
Yes.
Trustee Salela,
Yes.
President Bolfus.
Yes. That passes, and we'll move on to item 10B, which is a resolution of the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, approving final change order number 1 to the contract with BME Electric, Inc. of Bridgeview, Illinois, for construction of the South Cornell Pumping Station Emergency Generator Project for a net deduction in the amount of $15,285. Manager Keener.
Thank you, Your Honor. The village has a contract with BME Electric, Inc. of Bridgeview, Illinois, for the South Cornell Emergency Generator Project. Proposed change order number 1 consists of the reduction of erosion control work to be performed by in-house personnel, required changes to the wiring of the automatic transfer switch, and the balancing of the contract quantities. Proposed change order number 1 is a net deduction in the amount of $15,285 for an adjusted contract amount of $142,687.50. This project is budgeted in Water Supply Fund account number 8250202401. Thank you, Your Honor.
No motion for the resolution? Trustee Wagner,
I'd like to make that motion.
do you have a second?
Second.
Second that.
Trustee Murphy, seconded. Any questions or comments from the board?
I have one question. When did we approve this one?
Approve what? This contract?
The contract, yes.
What? Just, do you have any idea, Michael?
I believe it was approved earlier this spring before I came on board. So I believe in the February-March timeframe was when the contract was approved.
In 2020, correct? It was this year, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing none, roll call vote.
Trustee Patrick,
Yes.
Trustee Tucker,
Yes.
Trustee Salela,
Yes.
Trustee Murphy,
Yes.
Trustee Wagner,
Yes.
President Bolfus.
Yes. With that, we'll move on to item 10C, which is a resolution of the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, approving the First Amendment to the contract for purchase and sale of village-owned surplus property located at 257 to 277 East North Avenue with the CA Properties Acquisitions, LLC. Manager Keener.
Thank you, Your Honor. On June 22nd, 2020, the board approved a purchase agreement with CA Properties Acquisitions, LLC for purchase of the village-owned property located at 257 to 277 East North Avenue. At this location, CA Property Acquisitions intends to construct a shoot point blank facility. CA Property Acquisitions encountered a long approval process due to ingress and egress issues through the Illinois Department of Transportation. They are requesting an extension of the due diligence period to January 20th, 2021. This extension would move the anticipated property closing to February 19th, 2021. Construction is expected to commence on March 15th, 2021. Thank you, Your Honor.
Do you have a motion for the resolution? Trustee Patrick,
Let's make that motion.
do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board? Trustee Tucker.
I have a question. Do they have the ability to do 2 more diligences on this, or are we voting that it's set that they must go through with the contract this time?
Manager Keener.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, they've already went through 2 due diligence periods, and this is an additional one. So this would be their 3rd extension to the contract. And hopefully this will be enough to let them finish what they need to do, end this due diligence period so we can close on February 19th or so.
Okay, so they do not have the ability to do two more with this approval, right? This is it. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Trustee Wagner?
If, shoot point blank, if this should not come to fruition, this money would then revert to the village, is that correct?
Manager Keener?
Your Honor, I do not believe so. I think as they're still in the due diligence period, if they find something, they back out, it returns to them. However, they have provided the villages with construction plans. So we do believe that they're moving forward, and engineering has some plans that we are reviewing currently. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, that's all I had.
Anyone else? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Trustee Wagner,
Yes.
Trustee Tucker,
Yes.
Trustee Salella,
Yes.
Trustee Patrick,
Yes.
Trustee Murphy,
Yes.
President Bolfus.
Yes, that passes, and we'll move on to number 11, which is public comments on non-agenda items. There's no public in the boardroom. Manager Keener, did you have anybody send in any comment?
I did not, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to the clerk's report. Clerk Konecki, do you have anything?
I have no report today. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to the trustees report. Trustee Wagner.
Thank you, President Bolfus. I just have a couple things. Just want to report that as I mentioned before, the Triton YMCA Nourished and Healthy event, which was held on Monday, December 14th, was very successful. They didn't have as many people participating or coming through as in Thanksgiving, but it was still significant. And our police department, their assistance was invaluable in controlling traffic and providing lighting at the site. This was put on by, of course, Triton YMCA in partnership with the Northern Illinois Food Bank. And as I mentioned before, Knights of Columbus, through donations, provided coats for children at the event. And there's one very special volunteer who crocheted hats for the event, someone I'm very proud of. And those hats were distributed at the event as well. There'll be other Nourished and Healthy events coming up in the future. I just want to mention that the village of Villa Park did receive an honorable mention as a bike-friendly city, and we received some very valuable feedback as to how we can attain that goal. And just want to thank staff again for the hard work that they put in to submit that application. And the Bike, Pedestrian, and Transit Subcommittee is looking forward to reviewing those recommendations, to seeing how we can assist staff to achieve that designation. I want to thank Chief Rivas for attending the DuPage Rail Safety Council meeting on Saturday. He was very well received and well known by many of the law enforcement people that were part of that meeting. So I really appreciate him attending, and appreciate Manager Keener serving as a go-between. And I just want to take a time just to thank the members of our boards and commission who have served, who do so much great work for the village over the year. Because of COVID, we couldn't have any kind of recognition event, but I'm looking forward to hopefully sometime in the future where we can recognize the members of our boards and commissions that do so much for the village. And I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to our staff, fellow board members, and our residents. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Murphy?
Yes, thank you. It feels like the time of year to be thanking all of our staff for all of their wonderful efforts and patience with all of our activities throughout the challenging year. And hopefully we're looking forward to maybe some smoother sailing as we move into the new year. But we do want them to know at the end of the year that we definitely recognize and acknowledge all of their efforts. And I would then echo Trustee Wagner's holiday greetings, wishing all of our residents and staff a healthy and happy holiday, and look forward to season's greetings into the new year. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Tucker?
First of all, I'd like to thank Mike Lay. Now that he's not our chief, I don't have to say Chief Mike Lay. I'd like to thank him for his 30 years of service for our village. We really do appreciate it. And we wish you luck in your new endeavor, whether it's a retirement or somewhere else. I also want to thank all our staff and all our commissioners, just like Trustee Wagner did, that we appreciate you and we thank you for staying with us through this pandemic. It was not easy, and I know that a lot of your committees had to be very creative to do things. We really appreciate that. I'd like to wish everybody a safe and healthy Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I do have a question, probably to Michael on this. Can you explain to me why we have so many broken water mains in town? It seems like an epidemic on water mains right now. What's going on with all our water mains breaking?
So we've been trying to figure this out. Talking to neighboring communities, they are also experiencing increased numbers in water main breaks. Typically, water main breaks are typically due to old age in the infrastructure and temperature related, or sometimes pressure related. Around this time, it's not temperature, obviously. We haven't gotten cold enough for temperature to really play a fact. We did have the water tower down for a while we were painting it, so that could have some contribution to pressuring the system. I think it has a lot to do with soil conditions. We did have an extremely wet spring with over, I think, 9 inches of rain in May, and then we went to extremely dry weather in July and August. So with that clay soil that we were made up here, I think that has put in some additional stresses in our pipes. But we can't really find a smoking gun per se of why we've seen an increase, other than it's not just Villa Park, Lombard, Addison, and a lot of the surrounding areas are also experiencing higher numbers. So it's something we're tracking, but unfortunately we don't have a good answer right now.
Thank you. Everybody have a happy holiday, and we look forward to 2021 being better by all means.
Unmute.
Okay, again, sometimes my space bar works and sometimes it doesn't. So we'll move on to Trustee Ciala.
Thank you. I'd just like to wish my board members and staff, our residents, and all of our visitors through Villa Park happy holidays and a better new year coming up in 2021. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Patrick.
Thank you. I just have a couple of things as well. First of all, I think it's really important that we recognize both our police and fire departments for their charitable contributions, especially during this time. I really think that they are going above and beyond their scope of duty to enrich our community. For example, just recently, the Villa Park Police Benevolent Association had their second annual food drive. Over $1,800 was donated. Over $750 was spent on food and baby care items, and $1,000 was spent on gift cards to give to needy families. I know the Police Benevolent Association, they partnered with GM Smith & Son Realty as well as Jewel Osco to really make that happen for a bunch of families during this time. Another example is also the Phillip family on 39 West Madison in Villa Park here, along with the Villa Park Fire Department. Andy over there has set up a great illumination for the town to go out and see. His house is lit up. It's phenomenal. But also, it's a Toy Express children's charity drop-off location, which they are still accepting toys until January 3rd. And I think it's really important that we recognize our police and fire departments for everything that they are doing, especially during this time. So job well done to both departments. Second, I would like to talk to our residents about considering donating their used holiday trees to the Willowbrook Wildlife Center in Glen Ellen. They're located at 525 South Park Boulevard in Glen Ellen. Their phone number is 630-942-6200. And the animals that are rehabbing there definitely benefit from these trees. The only thing is that they ask that the trees are free of tinsel, lights, ornaments, and all decorations, but these trees are used for animal rehabilitation here in Page County. Besides that, I just wanted to say from my family to yours, happy holidays and a happy new year. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, just a little note on your with the Christmas trees. Those are live trees, real trees, not artificial ones that they want. So, okay. My report is just a reminder that our next board meeting is on January 11th at 7 p.m. here at the Village Hall. You know, it's been a tough year for everybody, for our village staff and for our residents in town with this virus and the quarantines and the regulations that we all try to abide by. Fortunately, hopefully, the end is in sight. We just have to be a little patient and continue on with masking and our distancing and keeping our gatherings down to a minimum amount. We don't want to get our friends and our relatives sick. I know it's hard. It's different than any of us have ever experienced before, and we'll be able to tell us younger members of the community, be able to tell their children and grandchildren, you should have been around in 2020, how bad it was back then. So I just want to remind everybody, please be cautious, continue to wear the masks. Unfortunately, we can't give you any certain dates on when vaccines will be available to the general public. The last I heard this morning from the DuPage County Health Department, if you're not in one of the first groups, 1A, 1B, and you get down to 1C, it might be into springtime, maybe even early summer, but it all depends on how the vaccines come in and the quantities. So that a lot of that, who gets it and gets it when, is somewhat in flux. So we just have to be patient. So again, I too, like everybody else, would like to wish everybody in Villa Park and all the board members and our staff Merry Christmas and have a Happy New Year. And please stay healthy. And hopefully by midsummer, we'll be able to get back to more normal activity. So Merry Christmas. And we'll move down to the manager's report.
Thank you, Your Honor. I too just want to wish everyone happy holidays and a happy new year, and please be safe, and we'll see you after the new year at our next board meeting.
Thank you. With that, do we have a motion to adjourn? Trustee Wagner?
To make that motion?
Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconds. And all in favor say aye.
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 With that, we're adjourned. See you in November 11th.
January 11th, you mean?
Oh, January 11th. Don't come.
Well, maybe.
Maybe November.